Welcome to the Broadlink Podcast, your home for expert wedding planning advice. Today we've got Destiny with Rothchild Catering here to talk about day of logistics, all about food. And there's so much to cover. Originally, we were going to do one podcast, but we had to break up all of this information into two just because there's a lot that you need to know. Hi, Destiny. Thank you for coming today.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. I know day of logistics, that's a big topic to cover. It definitely warrants its own episode.
Yes, because there's so much that goes into making sure that at the perfect time people have piping hot food on their plate. And so I just want to cover kind of step by step everything somebody should consider with day of logistics.
Sure.
And really, if it's them considering it or if you're walking them through it or at least giving them some insight on questions you need to know.
That sounds great.
One thing that I know definitely helps with day of logistics is having a day of coordinator on site.
Yes, absolutely. That is so important. Even if you're not hiring a professional, having someone designated to be the point of contact is great. When you hire a professional, they know all the right questions to ask and they know all the right details to give other vendors. No matter what, it's important to have somebody designated for your vendors to talk to when they get to the reception.
What we say is if you can't afford a day of coordinator, get your Aunt Patty to do it or
Yeah.
somebody other than you that's the guest of honor to be in charge of your timeline and coordinating with the vendors because
Yeah.
it's difficult without
You don't want to be
somebody.
attached to your phone while you're trying to get into your wedding dress. Someone else needs to be dealing with that so you can enjoy your day.
So, as far as working with a day of coordinator, I know there's a lot of questions that you all are going to be talking about. Can you talk about really the timing, like your food service timing and what's important with that?
Yes, so timing is absolutely key. From arrival time to food service time to conclusion, a caterer needs to know that so they can provide the utmost quality of service. We need to know when to arrive because every venue is different. Your ceremony might be right beside your reception location. And if that's the case, we need to arrive earlier so that we're fully set in place before the ceremony starts, so there's no extra noise. However, if the ceremony is far away from the reception, we can arrive closer to the reception time. We don't have that noise concern. So that needs to be taken into consideration with the timing. The absolute most important part is knowing when people are ready to put food on their plates because we want that food to be delicious, we want it to be fresh, we want it to be hot. So we need to know when are people going to be eating. And if that is adjusted 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, that will add up. So trying to make that as accurate as possible is going to help us out tremendously.
I know the more time the food sits around after when food service was supposed to start, you start to worry about the quality of food, if it's going to be as good of a presentation. And so it's really important to keep the timeline on track for food service to start at the right time.
Yes, for sure. People don't think about the presentation part of that. We try to time everything to make sure it goes out for the guest to have. It looks beautiful and it tastes great. We've got to have it nailed down.
There's so much that you have to consider just because a lot of the stuff has to be set up and prepped before ceremony starts if it's going to be really close to where the reception's taking place. But at the same time, you're responsible for having piping hot food maybe like 2 or 3 hours after you had to be getting there to set up before the ceremony time. So with travel and everything like that, how do you all work that out to make sure like basically you're in two places at once?
We might have to arrive to set up at a certain time to accommodate for that ceremony taking place. In that situation, we have to take travel into consideration with by using multiple vans, and we keep all of our food in what we call Cambros, and they only lose 1 degree of temperature per hour. They are great for food travel, but that doesn't replace timing. We have to make sure that we're taking that travel time into consideration.
Yeah, and then as a wedding planner, we're starting to think about okay, if we have multiple vans coming, are we going to hear the van arrive? Where's the ceremony taking place? Are they going to see a van go through? So that leads us to talking about parking because you have to, as a caterer, have some sort of access to your van
Parking can be a logistical nightmare for any
Hmm.
event, and that does not exclude your wedding vendors. But we have to be able to access the van. 150 pieces of steak is not going on the buffet at the same time. You
Hmm.
would need a large buffet.
Hmm.
And in that situation, we need access to the van where the food is held in the food safe containers. If there's a prep kitchen on site or somewhere designated for the caterer to set up, if we have access to that, that is a tremendous help. If a wedding coordinator or the couple can help us determine where they would like us to park and set up, that is going to relieve some stress upon arrival.
We always say that you all consistently need things throughout food service, and having
Yes,
access to your mobile kitchen is really the best way to make sure that you can get what you need, because it can slow
right.
down food service if you have to run to the parking lot to go get something.
You have to decide what's more important. Is it more important that the van is not visible, or is it more important that your guests are getting food quickly?
And so either you have to cope with the van in the
Yeah,
photos, or just kind of around the venue somewhere. Some
right.
venues are set up where it's hidden, other venues, it's just not possible to hide it.
Knowing those expectations in advance is important. We want to make sure we're doing what makes the couple the happiest.
Hmm.
So we'll do whatever we need to do, but we also want to make sure the food's great.
How does the type of food service impact day of logistics?
Doing a served meal versus a buffet meal is very different. For a served meal, it requires a lot more equipment if your caterer doesn't have a kitchen on site. It requires equipment like a hot box, plate covers, etc. It requires more staff. So there might be multiple vans, there might be multiple people. It's a lot more involved than a buffet. Whereas a buffet, the plates are generally put out on the buffet line and it doesn't require as extensive of a setup. We're happy to do either one. We just want to make sure people understand the difference
Hmm.
because of all those resources.
So when people are looking into different table settings, when they're trying to just think about how their day is going to look, what information do they really need to be giving you as a caterer about what goes on their table?
If you want a fully set table and you just love that look because it's stunning, we are going to need to arrive earlier and your food might need to come at a separate time to ensure that it's fresh. So,
Hmm.
if clients would tell their caterer in advance their expectations, that would help tremendously and it will help them get a more accurate quote.
Yeah, it's a lot. You can't just throw the stuff on the table. It has to be
No.
placed perfectly. You want it to be lined up correctly, and it's a lot.
To your point, this is exactly where a wedding coordinator is so helpful because they usually communicate with the caterer on the day of. You want to make sure that you have somebody there that knows exactly what the goal is for the table.
Yes, and if I could tell couples right then to have some mercy on us and don't pick a napkin fold that's basically some complicated origami, it would make
Yes,
things a
yeah.
lot easier.
There are some stunning ones out there, but
Hmm.
they sure do take some time.
If we have to fold napkins, I need your napkins at least the day before. We have to get the napkins the day before, and then that's just what we sign up for a Friday night is folding 150 napkins.
Oh, yeah, doing it in advance will definitely help. You might think, oh, this napkin fold takes me 10 seconds, but then you multiply that by your guest count, and all of a sudden it's taking a long time.
Yeah, or the napkin's not a perfect square, and then you're
Yes.
trying to fold it perfectly, and so I folded one napkin like 15
Oh
times.
my goodness.
So, other than that, let's talk about when it's time to pack up and leave. As far as day of logistics, I know there's a lot of assumptions made when it's time to leave, and who's responsible for certain things like glassware, drinks, the trash, all of those items.
At Rothchild Catering, we actually provide the plates, cutlery, and linen napkins with every order for a wedding. So that is our responsibility. However, we understand that some couples have a look that they're going for, and they might choose to have plates or napkins or cutlery that we don't offer. And in that situation, we try to be as accommodating as we can. But at the end of the night, if the equipment is ours, it comes with us. We scrape it, we clean it, we take it back, and we wash it, and you don't have to worry about a thing.
Every catering company can be different about what they're going to take with them when they leave and
Yes.
what services they offer.
You just need to talk about it. Talk about it in
Mm-hmm.
advance. And as
Yes.
long as we're communicating, we'll figure it out and make sure it is the best possible solution for the client.
People, another thing they're so concerned about with weddings is the look,
Yes, for
how
sure.
everything looks. And so talking to your caterer, well, also about presentation is always a good thing.
Yes.
But then when it's cleanup time, how does cleanup look? And
Mhm.
the worst thing we could do is figure all of that out at like 9:30 at night.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that even though we provide the plates, cutlery, and linen napkins, we do usually recommend for wedding receptions at venues offsite. They do plastic. If we have plastic cups on the beverage table,
Mm-hmm.
that allows the guests to continue getting their beverages, even if the caterer needs to pack up and take the glasses.
Mm-hmm. I always like if they get bottled water and keep it behind the bar.
That's a great idea, great solution to that problem.
And then guests can get bottled water too, like on the way home. They can grab
Yeah,
one on their way out the door and then stay hydrated the entire night.
yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you for coming today to give us some insight on Day of Logistics. And if somebody wanted to reach out to Rothchild Catering just to have a conversation with you about catering in general, how can they get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with us is through our website, rothschildcatering.com. We have all of our menus with pricing, and if somebody wants a custom menu, that's great too. But we have a contact form, comes directly to our email addresses. It does not go anywhere else, and we will see it and we will respond within 24 hours.
Awesome. So we'll put a link down there too so you can contact Rothschild Catering directly if you're looking for food service here in Knoxville and the surrounding areas. And then for more expert wedding planning advice, just follow us at the Broad Link.